Welcome to our Crypto Talk. Welcome to the Our Crypto Talk show, I must say, with Reuben Yap, the project steward of Firo and also the co-founder of Firo. So Reuben has been pivotal in shaping Firo's strategy since 2016 and is a vocal advocate for online and financial privacy. With a background in law, his insights into institutional frameworks add depth to Firo's development. We are glad to have Reuben Yap with us today on the Our Crypto Talk show. Welcome, Reuben. How have you been doing today?
Not too bad. I mean, pretty good in terms of I'm not in jail, so that's always a plus. All our privacy guys are going to jail, so being a free man is always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we're glad to have you here with us today, and we can, talk to you. And like, obviously, you don't have internet behind the bar, so that's a really good thing that you're out of that. So, yeah, the way you said that privacy is, a very looked upon narrative because money travels quickly and easily in this, globally connected society nowadays, and we all have somewhere lost control over our money and also our fundamental right, which is privacy. So being associated with the privacy project is not easy in the blockchain and the crypto space.
Before anyone who's listening to this for the first time, I'd like to tell that Reuben was with us on a Twitter space last month, and his personality and energy was so electric that the team immediately decided on a one-on-one interview with him on YouTube. And I think this is what I definitely expect this to be one of our, if not the best, but one of our best interviews yet.
Well, the expectations are set very high.
Easily one of the most viewed video on our channel, easily.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyways, let us start with some work things as well. So, Reuben, thank you again for joining us. And the first question I had for you was, what has been your story? How did you get into privacy? How did you co-found Firo? And your entire experience as a founder?
I mean, how far back do you want me to go? Like when I started crypto, or like when kind of Zcoin or Firo first started, right? Up to you guys.
Anything that contributes to the story. Anything that contributes to.
Okay, so I actually was a lawyer for 10 years, and I actually initially started. I was as a lawyer since like 2006, 2007, right? And I guess I went full time into crypto in 2017, but I've been aware and using crypto since about 2012 and 2013, and it really kind of caught my eye. I think how I actually got exposed to crypto was while I was a lawyer, I actually started a VPN service, and the name was called Bole VPN, which actually means like Bole means can in my local language. And it was honestly, when I started Bole VPN, it was because the government was blocking torrents, and I couldn't access my favorite anime. So I was like, screw this, I'm going to try and get my anime. And that's how I started the VPN service, and which actually grew to be pretty big. I think we were at one point, maybe like 2012, 2013, we were one of the most, I think like one of the best VPNs in the world. And we had like thousands of paying customers, which was really good. But when I started this business, I ran into so many issues because back then, VPNs were kind of like seen as like, why do you need to hide your internet connection? You must be doing something illegal or stuff like that. And it was kind of unfortunate, right? So my business actually was cut off from many financial payment gateways. So for example, PayPal froze my account a few times, even though there was like, no chargebacks and very few chargebacks. I was cut off from the ability to accept credit cards from several financial institutions, and like to check out, and several places placed us in the same category as, oh, you're high risk, you're in the same category as gambling and stuff like that, which I didn't quite understand, right? And back then, I didn't really know much about Bitcoin, and someone said like, hey, you're a VPN service. I don't want to tie my financial transaction to buying a VPN service from you. Why don't you accept Bitcoin? Of course, back then, a lot of people thought that Bitcoin was anonymous. Obviously, now we know better. But I was like, what is this thing, right? And I was like, can I convert it for cash? And I found some guy in Singapore that could actually convert it to cash for me. And he apparently now is like one of the founders of Cake DeFi. So, we've come a long way since then. But so I just started accepting crypto back in, I guess, like 2012, 2013. And at one point, I think every day we were getting payments in Bitcoin and Dash, which was quite interesting. And I guess through that experience of like losing access to my financial like ability to receive money made me like, hey, I'm not doing anything illegal. Why am I being targeted? Why is my ability to accept money being affected? And just imagine, like, you have all these payments and it's like frozen in PayPal, and I can't run the business. And I'm like, I've done nothing wrong, but this arbitrary third party says, when and how I should do my business, when they say it's not illegal, it's just not in their risk appetite, which is stupid, right? So that's how I got into crypto. And obviously, I quickly realized, I was like, I don't like the idea of people tying, like knowing exactly how many, Bitcoins I'm receiving, and I said like, well, I'm a privacy service running a VPN service, and I realized that, wow, there's this lack of privacy, right? So started dabbling into Dash, and then it was called Darkcoin, and then Monero as well. But early on, the Monero guys were very, very hardcore, and so I went down the Dash route. So that's kind of how I started into privacy coins. I did a lot of mining. I did a lot of all sorts of things, basically. And when there was an opportunity to join Zcoin, actually, to be accurate, I'm not actually the real founder. I kind of evolved into a co-founder position because I joined like 1 month after its mainnet launch, and the founder then was like, after a while, I was kind of taking over all the operations, and I didn't want like a title like CEO or something like that. A decentralized project should not have a CEO. So that's why my title is like project steward. I look after the project for the community, but no one knows what that title means, and no one wanted to interview me. So I asked my founder, I was like, hey, could you give me this co-founder title so that people would interview me? so yeah, he's like, yeah, you've been shaping the project for so long. Go ahead and use that co-founder title. So just to clarify that. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it and navigated. I actually started as a community manager in Zcoin. So Firo actually started with the name Zcoin in 2016. It's the same chain, just a rebrand. And I think within a couple of years, I was assuming, I would say, operational responsibility. Obviously as operational responsibility in the decentralized project, just like guiding my developers, making sure people get paid and stuff like that, and leading the direction. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But privacy coins are, to me, like really close to my heart, and kind of, I really, really miss the days of like the earlier crypto scene when, of course, getting rich was one of the excitement things, but we were also really, like there's this meme, we're in it for the tech, right? And it was really exciting to see like just money being transferred like internationally, P2P, and in a way that, it just felt like magic in that time. Now it's kind of different. It's a very different landscape, but I really enjoyed the early days when it felt like you were joining a movement, not so much a get rich quick scheme now, but then it was like, I'm doing something that this is going to be huge. This is going to be, revolutionary and change the world. And I guess we kind of got there, but probably not the exact future that we have envisaged. But yeah, I'll leave you to ask questions then. Yeah.
No, we're very glad you took the co-founder title. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here, would we?
I mean, if we would have dived deep enough, so we still would be sitting here. But then, yeah, that helps. That helps. The tag helps.
We'd have picked the most interesting person in the room, and it would happen here eventually.
My co-founder is also really interesting. Oramin, he's actually a very interesting character. He's also like worked in the Thai cyber warfare department. So yeah, he has the technical credentials for that. So pretty cool guy as well.
He was one who was building Lelantus, I guess, right?
No, he actually started with Zero Coin, and then he was like guiding that, and then he suggested that we move to something called Sigma. But after that, he's still involved, but not on the day-to-day basis. I guess like more of a founder figure, right? Yeah, but we're still very thankful to him. Yeah.
Got it. So yeah, I would take up the next question. Like it's a very generic question, and I'd just like to ask you that what would you consider the most important features of a privacy blockchain protocol? Like, for example, layer ones, we have the trilemma, right, of scalability, security, and decentralization. And in case of privacy projects, in my opinion, anonymity is something that comes to the top of my mind. So what would it be for you if you had to explain it to us, or maybe the people watching this video?
I actually think that, especially for privacy coins, I would say adoption is, to me, the most important thing, right? Because especially with privacy, we're often associated with illicit activity, right? But if we have this thriving, place that everyone's just using it for regular transactions, that argument kind of goes away. Monero definitely has a very high degree of usage. But obviously it's a bit hard to tell, what people are using it for. But and one of the big issues that I think all coins that are like some payments geared, right? Like they say, like, oh, we're about payments, we're about P2P payments. If you want to use payments in the real life, you still at the end still have to go through a conversion point, and that's, to me, both necessary but also a barrier, right? Because, well, once you're converting it into fiat, there's going to be a centralized point. Those centralized points tend to require KYC, load your credit card, unless you buy like a Visa prepaid card and all of that. So I think in the case of adoption, it's really important, because the bigger it is, the harder it is for people to shut down. And I think that goes kind of show, like, if Satoshi went to the regulators and said, like, hey, can I launch Bitcoin? Obviously, no, right? But then because it took off, there's like adoption, everyone's like involved in it, then it becomes a whole movement, right? Like even now in the US elections, right? Last time, Trump was like, oh, I don't like digital currency. I don't like Bitcoin. It's a challenge to US dollars. But because now enough people care about it, obviously he doesn't actually care. He's just saying it to get votes, right? But then that's the power of democracy, right? If a lot of people believe it's important, then the politicians are going to say, yeah, I'm now going to be the crypto president and stuff like that, right? And so I would say, even, you can talk about scalability and, security. All these are, I would say, like, security is, you have to have it. It's not, but then if you have adoption, that kind of like solves a lot of other things, because your adoption, you attract developer interest. Obviously, you're going to be having the brightest minds to be, developing the best tech. And yeah, I would say decentralization is also important as well, because, you want to make it like when Satoshi kind of like gave up, if you don't know who he is, who are you going to target if you don't like Bitcoin, right? And I think that's really important as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely a nice answer to that, adoption. And also, I guess awareness is equally important, because if there isn't much awareness about privacy in the market, people won't adopt it, right? I don't think many people, the newbies, get that point, like you mentioned, like people still believe that crypto is not traceable, but they don't have this knowledge that there are separate chains made to do that through ring signatures, or for that matter, Lelantus, which Firo uses, right? I was watching a couple of videos before, like obviously I had to do my research. So I saw how you guys worked basically, and it was pretty amazing that how things work here, like the Lelantus mint, the Lelantus J mint, and how it is different and like all together, right? So yeah, adoption also, I feel, if I'm not wrong, in 2018, when Firo was still called Zcoin, they also conducted the world's first large-scale party elections for the Thailand Democratic Party using the blockchain, right? So
That's right.
absolutely, Firo is, I feel they're moving in the right direction. If you're talking about 2018, like you're doing such kind of things where like the election commission does not have to count votes, right? Because lately there was an election in our country, in India, right? And you know, this thing is really important. Like if there's some technology that can help you, is my connection all right?
Yeah, you're back.
Now it's back. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that was something I would like to add to that, like the adoption part. So I don't think so many people are doing that, or many people are thinking towards that, because at the end of the day, it's all about making quick money. It's not about the tech. The people who say they're for the tech, most of them are just lying. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is we got to talk a little bit about that because I mean, this is not a shield at all. It was just something that really kind of highlights the challenges of running a privacy project, right? Because obviously, 2018, as you said, we have to distinguish like the election use case there and a proper, like full privacy preserving election. Of course, in the Thai election, it was actually kept purposely simple. It was because we were dealing with like really old people that, they're used to the old way of doing things. They're used to thinking of things in paper, and, they want to make sure. So it was designed in a way, using Shamir secret sharing. You encrypted the votes, but if everyone came together, they could decrypt the vote. So I wouldn't say that would be ideal privacy. That was in the Thai Democrat Party election, because they were saying like, how do we know if it's secure, right? And you had to realize in that case, they were trying to satisfy the candidates, right? Because what actually happened was there was a kind of a power struggle in the Thai Democrat Party, where there was a militarily backed candidate, there was the existing incumbent who was a previous Thai prime minister, but kind of like seen as a elite person. So that means like the regular guys can't really relate to him. So he was kind of, while he was still the head of the show, people were saying like, should you be the one running the Thai Democrat Party, right? And therefore, in the last time, the Thai Democrat Party, all they did was like a bunch of like senior officials say, you're the president, you're the one that's going to be leading the party. But because of this infighting, he wanted to kind of say, I want to show that the regular Thai Democrat Party member also supports me. And that's why this whole election came about. But when the election came about, obviously these candidates were like, how am I going to know that you're not going to rig the election, or you control the server and change the votes? Which is how our blockchain came along, because it's not to say as a private blockchain, but it's like public in the sense that anyone can use it, right? Everyone can see what is. No one person controls the blockchain. So that was a different use case. But we've actually learned a lot from that lesson and developed a whole new voting protocol called Aura. We actually, I think, published it. It's ready, and but we have not been, because we were like thinking, how are we going to apply it to our cryptocurrency, right? This is like really important work. It enables, elections on the blockchain that's done in a end-to-end verifiable way. That means if I'm a voter, I can make sure that my vote has been properly counted, has not been altered, and even the election commission and anyone cannot decrypt the votes. So all they know is that this is a valid vote, and I call the tally and stuff like that. But it's been really tough to actually find people who want to fund this new project, right? Because it's like why do I need this, right? And then you see like all this DAO voting. There's so many DAOs right now, and most of it is, I would say, governance theater. And what I mean is that means they pretend that it's decentralized governance, but it's bullshit. Can I actually use that? Sorry, I'll try to not use bad words. Yeah. And it's basically like, a bunch of VCs, the founder team, and all their friends and buddies basically pushing the way the project they wanted to do. And they're just using this governance mechanism to kind of justify what they want to do, right? So it's been hard to deploy that. We have had some interest from governments. Some actually wanted us to install backdoors in it. And we're like, what's the point? If you're going to install a backdoor, why do it? So that's why we're kind of thinking, this is like kind of like not totally related to Firo, but it's built using our technology. We're trying to convince political parties to use it as a polling. That means like instead of like voting, which is like very, very high risk, let's start with something like sentiment voting, right? Which is like, what do you feel about this topic? What are the most important issues for you? And there's some interest in that. So we'll see how that goes. But it shows that, we can talk about privacy and everyone wants it, but like governments love privacy for themselves, but they hate privacy for the citizens. And even when you're talking about elections and stuff like that, you would think that, yes, privacy is a given, but there is people who don't want that, right? So yeah, it's a battle.
Yeah, I mean, a full democratic country would, go for it, but then most of them are autocrats, and like I feel rigging the elections is the easiest way to win elections, and I don't think it would be ever. I don't think it will ever change for a long time. I guess till we're alive. That's what I feel. I'm kind of pessimistic through this angle. But then yeah, we can go ahead with the other questions, like not going too much into politics. And if you have something to add, you can surely add. But then yeah.
I do think that it is. I mean, this is something that I've spoken about. Like the thing is that how to get into this is to start a movement where people don't feel threatened first, and then by the time it realizes it's too late. So this is why like polling is important, right? Because political parties want to know what people are thinking, but they can't do that easily now. Like, can you imagine like Gallup polling? People call people like, hello, what do you think of this? Most people, when I hear this, I'm going to put it down, right? And online surveys and all of that. But if you can like do an app that people can vote and get a little bit of money from it, and once people get used to it and comfortable with it, they'll be like, hey, why don't I vote using this, right? Then there'll be that movement to move towards e-voting once people are comfortable with giving their stuff with the sentiment. Then there's going to be this like, oh yeah, why? If I can give up my opinion here, why can't I vote? Why are you forcing me to go to a physical location and all of that? So you have to start it step by step. It takes years to get there. And I feel that has kind of happened with VPNs, right? Like VPN started as this shady thing. The thing now is like, oh yeah, use not VPN, use Malvert VPN and everything VPN, right? And that took what 10 years? No, a bit less. Well, actually, yeah, it was taken about 10 years to kind of normalize what VPNs are. And I think privacy coins.
Now we see multiple ads of VPNs every now and then, but everywhere people were like, you're using a VPN, you must be doing something fishy. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's all I have to say on that.
I think that this has been a good discussion. As Reuben mentioned, it has to be step by step. We cannot expect leave governments. We cannot expect the people to directly go and do that, right? As Reuben mentioned, even in India, we saw in the election, right? The voter base is so used to the old tech, used to paper even, right? That it is not easy. I don't blame the people. We are
yes.
We think it is easier said than that again, right? But if we start off with something small, we create an awareness that this exists, and this exists in the truest form. It is not being manipulated. That is when people will start thinking that, okay, if it exists and if it is so well done, why not use it for something even more in priority or even more important, right?
I mean, even if you think about it, the way that our privacy has been eroded also didn't happen overnight. It happened over years, and people, it just slowly seep in, censorship slowly seeps in. Like, can you imagine, like, back in the days that everyone was using cash, and then now you tell people, oh, yeah, now no cash, everything's just on some centralized database in the bank and whatnot. Everyone's like, why should I trust that? I'm going to trust my paper now. But it took many years, and now people are like, even our parents are like, oh yeah, I'm okay using e-payments and stuff like that, right? But that also came with erosion of privacy, and now this sort of like lack of privacy has kind of become the norm. But it didn't happen overnight. It happened with losing very, very small battles because people were not aware, right? And even if you take a look at the way that messaging has evolved, right? Like back then, all messages were like unencrypted, right? And then next thing there was just like encryption in transit, right? And then after that, when Snowden leaked all this thing and showed that the government was spying on this, then suddenly there was a call for end-to-end encryption. So these things, I think privacy is fighting back. It is getting there, but it's still kind of like on our data and whatnot. On the financial side, this battle is very, very slow, and most people don't realize it because people always think about, oh, why do I want to hide what I'm doing with my money? It sounds so illicit, right? When you should be thinking, how can I protect my money, right? It's not about hiding, it's about protecting. And I think this will take another few years for people to realize, especially when, central bank digital currencies come alive. This is another thing, right now everyone's like, oh, it's just going to be just like cash, it's just as a digital wallet. We're going to protect privacy, except we're going to allow our authorities to get access to it when we need to. This is discussions in the Europe now for their CBDC. And then what? Next thing like, oh, negative interest rates. Remember, CBDCs are programmable. And then if they just decide, I'm going to tax you directly using your CBDC, I'm just going to, start deducting on negative interest rates, or I give you money and you have to use it on certain things, dictating how you use certain things. This is all possible with the CBDC. And because we are not in that reality yet, people don't see the threat. But when it starts getting abused, that's why I feel that when you're building a privacy coin, I'm building it for a future that I don't want to see, but I feel that it's really important that we exist, because this is an answer to all these crappy things that I would say would definitely happen in the next couple of years. I mean, we are already seeing it in certain countries. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense, definitely. So let us get back on track and start about yeah. So a technical question. I was going through your website and was doing some prep for this. So one thing that I would really like to know, because again, when we started off learning about privacy projects, so Monero obviously was one of the first ones that we knew about and how it works and all that. So what I would like to ask from you on a technical question, how does Lelantus differentiate itself from the ring techniques and all the cryptographic techniques that maybe Monero uses, right? Because again, Monero, as you mentioned, hot in code, we never know where it is going, we never know what it is doing. So how is Firo and its technology different from it?
Actually, Monero's tech, even, I mean, like if you speak to those who are actually like working on Monero's tech, they would admit that their tech is not the best. It's actually considered really outdated, and it doesn't really provide really good privacy. I mean, for its time when it started, it was, obviously revolutionary. It was one of the first privacy coins, right? And I think probably the first privacy coin to use like cryptographic techniques, CoinJoin, and yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say like advanced cryptographic techniques. But a good way to kind of think about it is that Monero currently uses like, ring signatures, and ring signatures is basically what we call obfuscation. It's not like encryption, right? That means it's like when I send a transaction, I am putting in decoy. So like, a way that I always use to explain this is like farting in a lift, right? So if I go into a lift and I'm the only one there, and I let out a fart in the lift, everyone knows that it's me, because it's like, I'm the only person in the lift and I fart, it's me, right? That's kind of like what Bitcoin, right? Because I know this address did this, right? But what happens if I drag 15 other people in the lift with me and then I let out a fart? Then it's like, it could be one of these 16 people that let out a fart, right? And that's basically ring signatures in a nutshell, right? But the problem is that this is, obviously 1 in 16 isn't a great thing, and the kind of really simplify it is like not 100% accurate, but a good way to visualize it is like, okay, let's say I'm dragging in 16 people or 15 people besides me, right? And someone's observing from outside. After a while, they're like, wait a minute, Reuben has been in this lift for this several times. Although all these other people are changing, I see a common thread here. Reuben has been in this lift several times, right? And therefore, that privacy is broken, right? Obviously, I'm simplifying it a lot, but this is a good way to explain it. While with like ZKP techniques, you basically can fart in the lift and disappear, and you can even pass that fart to someone else, and he can make it appear at any time in the future, right? So your anonymity set is not just with the people in the lift with you at one time. Your anonymity set is with everyone who went into the lift in all the time that lift has existed, right? So obviously ZKP techniques like Lelantus, or Lelantus Spark specifically, are much more superior. But obviously Monero is now looking into other things that would give better privacy. But I don't know how long they're going to take to implement that. And I guess the other thing to think about is that, obviously Zcash, they, I would say gave birth to like modern ZKP techniques, right? But their earlier versions required something what we call a trusted setup. So even things like Tornado Cash, Railgun, and all of these all required something called a trusted setup. And a trusted setup is basically kind of like Lord of the Rings, right? Like you have to destroy the one ring, right? Or else someone has a backdoor into the system. So obviously this is not a good thing, right? In blockchain, you don't want to have to trust something, right? You don't want to have to trust that this thing was destroyed. But so our systems all don't require trusted setup, and so that's kind of it in a nutshell. Though, I don't want to go too technical and stuff like that. But I guess the difference between our privacy protocols is that we use ZKP techniques, but we use it in a way that they are modular. That means we have a ZKP that hides amounts. We have a ZKP that makes sure that the balance from one input and outputs are the same. We have a ZKP to prove membership. So that means that we have several ZKPs working together, and let's say a better ZKP comes along, we can take that out and then replace it with something else, which gives a lot of future proofing. And it makes it very easy to understand and also analyze from a cryptography and also developer standpoint. So that's, I guess, one of the big benefits of our stuff. So we get all the benefits of like ZKP tech, but without all the really, really complex circuit infrastructure. Yeah.
Nice. I really like the modularity concept here, because as you mentioned, Monero, we never, again, those were different times, different development techniques. And again, back then, development on blockchain was a huge, I myself was developing on blockchain back in 2015 or 16, I think. So I know what the challenges that were there in the early days. But now, as you mentioned, Firo, working with modular infrastructure and modular code, as in with these techniques. So I don't think when newer or better, more modern techniques come in, it will be difficult for you to replace your system, just like Monero is right now. So I think that is a very promising thing, because at the end of the day, there are very less people who, as you mentioned, are in it for the tech, right? But the people who are in it for the tech, they need to take care of the tech, because the financial people will not. They just don't care about how difficult it is to scale or how difficult it is to maintain in the future, right? They just want to make their quick buck and get it over with. But yeah, nice to hear it from you.
Yeah. I do think it's important. Like one of the things I wish that I focus more is like, yeah, we can be focused about the tech, but we also have to be focused on what is this tech, trying to do, what are we trying to change in this world? A lot of like new ZKP projects, they just like ZKP for the sake of calling it ZKP when, they don't really need it and stuff like that. Right. So I do feel that, we have to remember that when we are developing something, we think, okay, is this something that is really going to change things, right? And I feel that I think we achieve what we set out to. So even like Lelantus Spark was also, has inspired Monero to change its own privacy protocol. So I think, that's a big win already, right? That we open this whole new path of doing privacy protocols. Yeah.
I just had one more thing to ask related to the same thing. Like the way you mentioned the Lelantus Spark, it solves the direct anonymous payments part. Also, you don't have to add multiple addresses, right? And works with multi-signatures also. And on the other hand, you mentioned that Monero is also, trying to cope up with this, and they're also working on Triptych, if I'm not wrong, and that's on their roadmap, right?
Triptych has already been abandoned. Then they moved to Seraphis, which now is like, they say it's a few years away, but then now Luke has come up with a way to kind of rejig ring signatures with full chain membership proofs. It's kind of all up in the air at the moment. Yeah, so Triptych is not happening for sure. Seraphis is still being developed, but maybe a couple of years away. And Seraphis is the one that is based off Spark. And now Ring Signature FCMP or Full Chain Membership Proof is something that just happened in the past couple of months. So we'll see how that goes. But very promising work there. Yeah.
I actually checked up their roadmap. I think they've forgotten to update it or something like that. But they have Triptych still on their future roadmap. Basically, the way you mentioned how Firo differentiates from Monero is that Firo has a larger anonymity set, if I'm not wrong.
That's a bit dangerous to say. I would say that on the theoretical and technical standpoint, definitely on the per transaction basis, our anonymity set is higher. But obviously, Monero has a lot more users, right? So it's a bit of I would say that you get pretty good privacy if you use Firo, especially on the transaction level. But because Monero, it's like, so much bigger, they may get certain, I would say, network benefits from having much larger user base. That's why, there's this saying that anonymity loves company, because the more people use privacy tools, the more we all just blend into the crowd. If the crowd is small, your techniques may be really good. Just imagine if Firo had this advanced ZKP tech, but I'm the only one using it, then my anonymity set is 1, right? So it's a bit of a thing. Obviously, we don't have an anonymity set of 1. We have many thousands of users, right? But I don't know how many Monero users are there, but obviously there's a lot more, right? So I would say that I think I don't see Monero as obviously they're competitors, but I would say we're in it for the same things. But I think we have been, because we are a smaller project, we also have a development fund. We have been able to push out technical achievements a lot faster. And we also a lot more nimble when deciding certain things. I think also, unlike Monero, who are they're very like, screw the government, screw centralized exchanges, which I respect, in a way someone has to take that path, right? But we are also like opening up ways for privacy coins to actually exist on centralized exchanges. And recently, like Binance actually, like, I don't know if you saw the news, but Binance, delisted Monero, delisted a whole bunch of privacy coins. But we have managed to find a way to stay on Binance, and our solution was then pushed by Binance to Zcash and Pivax and all these other privacy coins. And as a result, they were able to stay on Binance as well, right? Now, obviously this is a very nuanced argument because people are saying that, oh, you're selling out, you're giving in to centralized pressure, you are implementing this transparent address that's going to reduce privacy, right? But you remember what I say, right? I said that for a privacy coin, adoption is also really, really important, right? If there are no places for you to convert your Firo to something else, you're gonna lose adoption. And right now, I mean, like, of course, people are saying, oh yeah, Monero, they lost Binance, and then now the price has recovered. I don't know. I haven't seen, has their volume recovered, right? That's important. And Kraken has also been delisting them in different countries. And now you have like a bunch of like Chinese-based, centralized, kind of semi-shady exchanges running Monero. Then people say, oh, let's use a DEX. What DEX options do you have? You don't really have any good ones. Like, I don't know, less than 1% of people would use that option, right? So while I respect that, I also think that we have to be able to have a balance. I think in terms, Firo is more pragmatic in the sense that we're not going to like do things that severely affect privacy, but we're also going to make I would say we're more willing to be flexible with exchanges as long as people realize that, well, you're dealing with a centralized exchange that has your KYC details. You're not going to have like full expectation of privacy there. But when I'm transacting, when I'm sending the people, when I'm paying for things, you're all private, right? So I think there's a balance there. And I think that's where we are, well, I would say better. Some would say we are sellout. I think it's important that different privacy coins take different paths. And in a way, I'm very proud that I came up with a solution that managed to keep, privacy coins on the largest exchange in the world, right? And I think because new regulations in EU, new regulations in US are coming up, the more that we let privacy coins get delisted from this, the more we are being pushed to this like paria state where, no one wants to deal with us, right? And we are seen as, oh, we are the dark net market, we are only for illicit activity. If that reinforces that narrative, and I really would like to avoid that. I respect what Monero is doing, but I also think it's still very important to have mainstream access because you see all these people who live off crypto, they use Bitrefill, they use crypto gift cards. They all have centralized exchange backends. All these swap services, centralized exchange backends. You remove all of that, you're going to get screwed, right? So I think people may not feel it now, but if the delistings continue, these happens. And obviously, I'm trying to buy time. Obviously, we are waiting for good decentralized exchange solutions. But yeah, this is just kind of our approach, right? Not to say it's right or wrong, but I would say it's more pragmatic and flexible there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to ask you that question, because I was checking out, you guys were still on Binance. I guess Firo is on Binance, Pevex is on Binance, but Monero was delisted a couple of months back, I guess. And I don't exactly know what protocols you needed to follow to stay there. And I wouldn't go into that because that must be private, obviously. And it's great that...
I can explain it later, but I'll let you finish. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the way you mentioned, Monero took a different path and Firo is on a different path altogether. And that is really amazing, Why I'd say that? Because still staying on larger exchanges gives you that unshady side of things. That privacy coins are not just used for the bad things or maybe for the dark market, but still projects are here. Privacy, it matters because see, a newbie coming to Binance, he'll see, okay, there's Firo, okay, there's a privacy narrative. And on the other hand, Monero is taking a different step altogether. Like they're working on Heaven also, which is their personalized decentralized exchange, if I'm not wrong. I've done my research, so basically they're working on the different thing altogether. They'll be, but the way you mentioned, there's not lots of volume on Monero as much as it would have been if they still would have been on Binance, right? So yeah, it equally benefits each of the projects because privacy is still a good narrative and not a shady narrative. So people can, jump back to Monero and see, okay, they are too decentralized. They are working for decentralization. They are the pioneers of decentralization. They're not on any large exchanges. But on the other hand, what Monero is doing, they're still showing the usage of a privacy coin, which also benefits the other privacy coins, which are already on centralized exchanges who are also working towards adoption, which is, I guess, it's a balanced side.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Monero does is kind of like, wake us up, like, this is what it means to be uncompromising to your beliefs and all of that. And I think that's important. Obviously, I think it's not the greatest PR because, you have sometimes people say, oh, yeah, it's so great that we're on darknet markets. It's so great that criminals are using us because it shows that the technique works, right? But, I feel like we all have different things to say. But if it's in the pursuit of privacy, obviously, I wish that they would kind of distance themselves away from the illicit like communications. Obviously, no one can stop like illicit activity happening, but to champion that, you're just giving regulators ammunition to crack down on you, right? So, I mean, I personally just believe that money should be free, and one of our mottos is like your money is your business, which it should be, but this is being eroded every single day, right? But with exchange addresses, just to kind of clarify, because a lot of this, a lot of Monero people are like, yeah, you're totally giving up privacy. Now, all that, because of the European regulations, they ban privacy coins. They ban all coins with inbuilt anonymization features, which is kind of stupid. Like, what is the difference between a coin with an inbuilt anonymization feature versus Ethereum with a smart contract that can enable that? I don't really understand the difference. It's like, oh, okay, it's kind of like arbitrary, right? But they have a proviso. They say unless the exchange can identify the user and their transaction history. So obviously, the exchange already has your KYC details. They can identify the user, right? But they cannot identify the transaction history if it comes from an anonymous source, right? So what happens is that we force people to basically, if you want to deposit into Binance, you have to deposit it from a transparent address first. So that means you reveal the amount and then you deposit it into Binance. So obviously there is some privacy leak in the sense that you are giving up your amount. You're showing that you're depositing, this address is depositing X amount into the exchange. But this address could be a new one, right? Or it could be an old one, up to you, right? But it's up to you what you want to show, right? But at least the exchange regulators can see this amount went into the exchange. And in a way, for a centralized exchange with custody over customer funds, that has certain benefits because you can see exactly how much funds the exchange is holding, like Firo or something like that. You can't see that with Monero, right? You can't tell maybe if 90% of the supply of Monero is being controlled by someone. You really can't. But at least with this, I can say that all these coins, they're being held on the exchange. So if the exchange runs or does something, I can see it happening. And this was like a constant problem within Monero, who was like saying, oh, the centralized exchange is doing a fractional reserve thing, but they didn't have evidence. They just said it, right? But having like a transparent address type of system allows them to remain accountable. And there are still ways that you can preserve your privacy. But obviously, when you're dealing with centralized exchange, you're going to be expecting certain degrading of privacy, right? So we're here to protect user transactions, but when you're dealing with a centralized exchange, you're going to be revealing your amount that you deposited. But of course, people can't tell, right? It goes in and then you can trade, you can get all the liquidity, you can get like all the integrations, Binance Pay, and all these swap services that rely on Binance as a back end. So I think it's a balancing act, right? I'm very against like maximalism because honestly, that's not how the world works. The maximalism is great for messaging, great for building cults, great for like, make America great again, or like, everyone's or China's bad, stuff like that. Obviously, that's true and not true, right? It's always a real thing. It's always nuance, and I prefer to take a nuanced approach. And my community also voted on this to say that we want to do this, and therefore so yeah. That's all I got to say in that.
Yeah, that answers the question for us, I guess. Sahil, can we move on to the next one, or like?
Yeah, sure. So let us have this last question, and this was very fascinating to me when I reached out to you guys for the Twitter space as well. I realized I messaged PIVX totally like different different approach, and you totally different. I didn't know you had the privacy roundtable.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I got to know that, I was really fascinated with the approach that you've taken. This is something that you also reiterated in this interview as well, that this is less of a competition and more of a movement, right? And again, with the concept of the different paths that maybe Monero is taking, you guys are taking, maybe there's a third privacy project which is doing something totally different we do not know about, right? So, regarding the privacy roundtable, and a little light-hearted question now, and the entire social media that Firo has created. I really love your YouTube page, by the way. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
How important do you think it is to be communicative with your community, with even the community outside Firo? And how important do you think is social media and your perception and your partnerships or your communication with other projects for you and for your project?
The way I see it is that, I mean, let's face it, crypto at the moment is still highly speculative. And being a speculative economy, it's also about attention, right? I mean, like, we've seen, like, recently I saw this coin called Frog, which was Trump and Frog, because his chin apparently looks like a frog, right? And that thing pumped like, thousands of %, right? And people are just moving from this and this and this, right? And like, something like bonk, a dog being hit on the head, all these memes and stuff. We have to, as much as we don't like it, as much as we say like, oh yeah, crypto is supposed to be this alternative financial serious system, hot money, blah, blah, blah. It is, attention, speculative driven. I mean, like even the Bitcoiners are like, don't spend your Bitcoin. I'm like, what is it for? Just hold it and like get rich and laser eyes. And it's all a freaking meme, right? So of course I don't agree on that. But, one thing you can say is that, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? I mean, obviously it's a very bad thing, but you have to face the reality that you are in this, right? And you have to navigate it in such a way that I'm not going to compromise on my values, but at the same time, I also have to play the game a little bit, right? And I think one of the things that we, by involving ourselves with other privacy projects, which may also become, like PIVX and I with Firo used to be like really bad enemies. really, we have really some bad history each other, but we managed to come together and resolve our differences, and we may not agree with everything, right? But I feel that, like religion, the things that bind us together are greater than the things that divide us, right? And like even when we talked at MoneroCon, when we talked at Monerotopia, we may not agree with everything, but it felt like you being part of a family, because privacy coins as a space is already such a small part of the crypto space. There's no point to further segregate it, become like, oh, I'm a Monero maxi, oh, I'm a Firo maxi, and all these things. Just further divides us. So it's better to have a unified voice, right? Obviously, how can we go into like, because privacy coins tend to be much more community-based, less VC-oriented and stuff like that. It tends to be a very clear divide between like the OG privacy community-run for coins versus the VC coins, which tend almost, I would say, almost like a circuit jerk, right? So we would like to, I guess, like, we obviously welcome exposure. We have to use the social media, and like we recently started like this Firo with friends, which isn't really about Firo. It's all about like basic crypto with a local influencer that she doesn't know anything about crypto, but people relate to it. It's fun, and we have to remember that I also got into crypto because it's fun. We shouldn't pretend to say like, oh, let's screw the government, all this sort of things. We have to make sure that being part of crypto is fun. And then when it's fun, which is what the memes got right, things, adoption would happen. Then you can talk about the serious things, right? Because if you don't make it fun, people don't care. If you make it fun and they're like, I'm having fun, and then, oh wow, there's this really serious issue that we're dealing in, but I'm having fun playing with it. And I think that's kind of like the balance there. So I do think I don't pretend to be an expert with social media, but we are trying to make it more approachable. So like, this is kind of like the really old stuff, like citizens, not suspects, which is like really serious. But we actually started like printing like really, we have a mascot called Sparky. The girls love it. They love wearing it. It's fun. And they may not realize what it is about, but then when they learn more, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. It's important. And that's how you win hearts and minds, not through the, tinfoil hat, and doing that. So I think that's a path that we should take. And it also totally reduces the idea of illicit activity, right? Because it's like, if it's fun, it's about, fun little cartoon characters. And then with privacy as a side note, it gives it a much, much better like PR standpoint. And privacy coins have a bad PR, so we need to improve on that. So yeah.
I mean, I would love to get my hands on those merch if you would.
Definitely. You just your address and they will send someone. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's nearly an hour, and like we should, most probably end this up, and we can probably have some of the conversations off camera. Like we can do that for sure. And anything you'd like to say to our community, to the existing Firo community, or the people who might be intrigued hearing this talk, the new people watching Firo, getting, the first impression of this privacy coin, this fun privacy coin, something to them? You can go ahead.
I mean, I would say like, get into Firo not because you want to get rich. Privacy coins as a sector, it's going to be a challenge, right? But if you believe, put your money or things that you support, and I believe that privacy is, especially in financial, is really important. We're honest, we're transparent. It's kind of weird. We are private, but we are transparent about what we do, right? And you want to join a community of people that really care about what they do. And we're fun, we hold like little meetups, we play games together and stuff. And that's why we call our community Firo Fam, right? So, join us on Telegram, on Firo.org, we are also on Discord. You just want to chill and hang out and ask questions. That's great, and getting rich, that would be a side benefit, right? I mean, I think one of the things that people have to realize is that, people say like, Reuben, why don't you tell people that, that Firo is definitely going to go up in price, right? If I knew that, it means that I'm manipulating the markets, right? I don't have any control of that. This is a community project. Most of the coins are in community hands. So yeah, this is the way it works. And it's important, I would say, to have fun, educate, and, we've recently actually gotten a lot of like people from Monero coming over to contribute to our projects, and people coming and making memes or like, nice stickers, or just like, having fun. And I really want people to just realize that, rather than just say, oh, number go up. So yeah, I guess that's my 2 cents. And we really, really appreciate, like, I think we're one of the few things that, we see all your comments, we will reply to every single one of them. And if you go to our Telegram, Discord, I'm there every day. We are there for you. We have direct contact with the people that are developing it. So yeah, I think that's a big plus for us. So I really hope to see, you guys just join us. Even if you don't have Firo, that's fine. Just come in for the laughs, and come in for learning more about privacy. We're really, really open.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Reuben, for sharing your, expertise and insights with us today on privacy, what it is all about. Also, your elevator fart analogy was great, and
I use that sometimes.
Also, your dedication.
Actually,
sorry, you can.
no, I actually have like, I fart a lot. So that's why it was a very natural analogy.
I mean, yeah, we appreciate your time and look forward to seeing the continued success of Firo under your guidance. And yeah, it was great having you with us today. So thank you, Reuben.
Thank you so much.